What's up, folks?
Oh,
What?
go ahead, Webs.
Oh, sorry. It's that time again. It's time for some hoodlum culture and the events of what we think Kofax will do today. Um, I'm Webbs, and this is Mike, and I just realized I can't see your desktop, so I don't know what you're sharing.
Good indeed. Give me just a second.
Okay. But today we're going to talk about digefficiency, which is a portmanteau that I came up with a while ago that combines digital with efficiency. And basically, it's like one of my favorite things to talk about. I really enjoy like figuring out ways to tweak my system so that one, I don't have to think about it as much. It's not the forefront of my mind. It's just kind of something that it's like a system that I follow and that I rely on to be able to like catch all my random things that I have that I'm juggling. And so I've decided to call this building a Tardis because Tardis is from Doctor Who and it stands for time and relative dimension and space. And your system is relative to you. So, like, I've been working on my system for a while now. So, I have all these little like tweaks and complex rules and stuff that I kind of roll with. But that's not necessarily going to be the case if you're just starting out building your new system to kind of help you not worry so much about all those little bits that you're kicking around in your head constantly. This is probably my favorite doctor, David Tennant. And so, yeah, this is the theory of relativitedness, and that it's all dependent on where you are and what you're working on and what your level of digefficiency is right now. And then you can build from there. And we'll talk about how to do that today. Mike, who are we?
Intelligent Hoodlums. We find us on the interwebs at theintelligenthoodlums.com or on the Twitters at TrustTheHoodlum. That's where we are.
Ba 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 ba. It's weird for us to switch roles. Like, I'm so used to the things that I do when we do these. Like, I'm checking on the chat and all that kind of stuff. It's weird to not be looking at those things. Anyway, I'm Webbs. I am a software developer by day and superhero by night. And I was in the classroom for 10 years as a digital learning coach and a bunch of other things. And that's me.
Like I keep it real in the streets. All right, Webs.
All right. So normally, if you are an avid watcher of our program, we do ask a software developer. But since I'm running things today, sort of whatever, narrating, I'm gonna ask Mike a question. So, for those of you that have followed us for a while, you might know that we are very different in a lot of ways. One of those ways is like I'm the super organized minimalist one, and Mike is the organized chaos, if you will. And so I've seen over the years that we've known each other, like him slowly interject tools into his system that help benefit him. So what I want to know from you, Mike, is as a 5-digit badger person, because if you've ever seen his email badge, it's like 5 digits long. What are the things that you have figured out work best for you? And what are like some of the compensating controls you have in place to keep things moving so you don't like miss every meeting you have and whatnot?
I don't delete anything ever.
How do you find anything?
That's why they have the search buttons in Google and Gmail and Google Docs and all that kind of stuff. You can find stuff real easy. If I know who sent it, then I have every email that person ever sent. Rather than perhaps freaking myself out deleting something that I actually would need because I was trying to go to the zero inbox situation. But if I don't ever delete anything, that means I never lose anything. So if
For,
somebody 3 years from 3 years ago says that you get that email, yep, I still got it in my inbox, fam.
for folks who don't know, zero inbox is when you try to get down to no emails in your inbox.
Yeah, I'm not. That's neurotic. I'm just that. That's not my hustle. So no, I've literally emails from in my original email. The only time I delete it is when I get right above right on the 15 gigabyte or my personal email, and then I'll delete all of the promotional stuff and all the spam, but I'll keep all the emails in there.
Are there any other tools that you use to help you like figure like keep things organized?
That I'm consistent with, no. Like my go-to strategy is do not delete anything, because if you delete something you might miss something. Like, for example, strategy saved my bacon last week. A teacher claimed that I hadn't responded to an email. I was like, but I did, fam, and I know I did because I don't delete squat. Here's the exact conversation here. Here's what it looks like. It's still in there. So I think it's one of the scenarios in which if you step out of your persona too much, you get yourself in trouble, especially if you're not going to fully convert to another way of life. If you're someone who's just dabbling in certain things, you decide I'm gonna go do this 10-day email challenge where I'm gonna delete all my emails, and that 10 day you happen to be in some project or something that's really important, and you revert back to who you were, and suddenly all the emails from your whatever are gone because you went to zero inbox. I mean, you screwing yourself. So I think there's a I relied a lot more on calendars just for meetings, but I still, like, I will never delete any emails unless there's just like, if unless I can see myself not using information. So some uh, uh, coupon from some company, yeah, that can die. But something that's actually important, something that has somebody's information in it or something like that, nah, because I know myself. 2 weeks from now, I'll forget about it, and that person will call me on it, and I'm like, if I were to delete it, I'd be screwed. But since I don't delete it, I can go back and find information. I'm fine. Yeah, it has allowed me to fake a lot of situations as well. Like, oh yeah, Mike, did you do X, Y, and Z? Oh yeah, yeah, I did that. And I go back in my emails like, all right, I have all the specs already in there. Let me knock this out in 5 minutes, and we're good. Had I not had that situation, had I deleted it, had I written it down in a notebook and gone someplace or whatever, I'd been hemmed up. So I think email for me is a file cabinet full of stuff, and I don't want to ever delete the file cabinets, because if I delete the file cabinets, I'm hemmed up.
I think it's a really good point. Like, um, one of the big mistakes I think folks make right off is that they try to pick a strategy that works for other people that may not fit with what their natural tendencies are. So, for me, I aim for inbox zero. I like to get rid of all my stuff. That does not mean I delete everything. I archive stuff just to get it out of my inbox sometimes if I think I might need it later. But if you know you're the type of person who needs that level of being able to go back to whatever it was, don't fight that tendency. Don't try it. I feel like this manifests a lot in like health and fitness stuff where people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be the type of person who gets up at 5 a.m. and works out every single morning for like an hour and a half." Like, you can be super ambitious that way, but if that's just not your normal tendency, if you're someone who sleeps late and is a night owl, that's probably not going to work well for you. It's going to be an uphill battle the entire time, and it'll likely end in you like burning out and just getting super demoralized because this thing that you put so much effort into didn't work out for you. And I think the same thing is true of being digitally efficient. Like, if it's a system that just doesn't work well for you, another good comparison is like people who type notes versus people who handwrite notes. And there are ways to handwrite notes and capture those digitally. So that doesn't mean that you have to not have a digital system if you prefer to handwrite notes. Mike and I are both like handwritten notebook people for certain things. And but yeah, don't fight that tendency. Like, go along with it. Don't create additional friction for yourself. I think the search bar thing is super big too. I use that with my apps on my phone. I don't know where, like, that's the one thing that I have a ton of those. I have a ton of apps on my phone, and I just search when I need a certain thing. Like, I don't bother to keep them all in perfectly organized folders that I go to. It's just I search for it. So the search bar is definitely your friend. That's especially going to be your friend when we talk about your home base. So, if could you bring up your Google Drive or any Google Drive?
Give me just a second.
Yeah.
I'm moving stuff around.
So we'll talk about two different home bases that you might want to have, that you'll probably want to have. And this is just kind of a primer to get you started. I think this is all super important because one, we're talking about a world in which we've moved to like digital stuff, right? You don't have an option really unless you're like mailing papers or student assignments. You're probably doing most of your stuff digitally. So being able to manage your own things in a digital world is super important. Um, so one home base that you want to have is some sort of place where you can dump files. And my suggestion would be to make that place a cloud-based solution. You could probably, I mean, if you have all of your files on your home computer, granted in today's day and age, if you're spending most of your time at home, maybe that's not as much of an issue. But another benefit to having things in the cloud is if your computer blows up, you have that backed up to a cloud space. So you don't have to worry about losing your documents. So having something like Google Drive, that's probably what most schools, teachers, people working in education are going to use because that's what most schools use. It's really just a file space. You have a bunch of folders that's going to help you keep things organized, grouping them together like with like, and then you have a bunch of files. And for now, that's all you really need to concern yourself with is the things that are in your drive. You can expand beyond that into folders that you share with other people and shared drives that you have with different groups or organizations. But I would say if you're just starting out, if this is your first stab at trying to figure out like a digital system, start with just focusing on your drive and your folders and keeping things organized there. There is, where's your little plus sign? Oh, upper left-hand corner is the little plus sign that says new. So if you want to add a new document, folder, file, whatever, you can add that there. Or you can, if you're in Google, add a new doc, sheet, slide, whatever. You can drag and drop things into folders. You can you can grab an item off of your desktop and drag it into a folder. Do you have my video open?
Give me a second.
I did a little demo video of what it looks like to add different documents to your drive to like a new folder. One of the things to be aware of is that when you're adding Office files, so like a Word document, that Word document is going to kind of be able to be processed in two different ways.
You can keep talking.
Okay. So you can grab a document off your desktop or wherever on your computer and drag it in. And Michael play the video. There's no sound to it or anything. It's just like a short demo. So you can drag and drop it, like I'll show you here. So just grabbing a document, dropping it. And then the second one that I add, oops, there's echo. Yeah. The second one is a Word document. So when you open a Word document, it's going to open as just a static Word document. But if you use the drop down and then select Google Doc, you can open it and make it editable. The drawback there is going to be that it may mess with the formatting because you're changing it from a Word document into a Google Doc. So you may get some funky, messed up formatting stuff. They do have this new option of doing office editing. I haven't used that before, but it's something worth exploring. So that's something to keep in mind is like if you upload a Word doc to your drive, it's going to save as a Word doc. It's going to be in your drive as a Word doc, but when you open it, you'll have the option with that little drop down that was in that video to open it as a Google Doc. That's something I've seen from people is like how do you juggle those things and understanding what those different formats are. So that is also something to keep in mind. So you have this one place that you're going to drop your stuff. It can be PDFs, it can be documents that you want to make sure you have a backup copy of or whatever. So that's an important place to have things. It can be pictures, it can be videos. Having a place to drop all your stuff is really important so that you're not, oh, I'm going to put it on my desktop and then when I go looking for it later, I can't remember where I put it, or I'm going to put it in my documents folder and then I go looking for it later and I can't remember where I put it. Even if you're working on your own computer, like make sure you have some strategy for where you're going to put stuff consistently all the time, like some default space for you to deal with it, so that you're not expending a lot of energy trying to think about where you want to put it. So that's your first home base. The second home base is going to be Mike. Do you have anything to add about Google Drive or Drive space in general?
That's another reason why I don't take a lot of time to organize stuff because Google is going to organize. If I just dump it in here, I can just find it. So I don't have to have. So for again, I know how I roll. I am not. I am a abstract random person. I think again, going back to know yourself, like know your worth, like Sprite says. If you trying to go convert to this, I'm gonna do this very complex way that I organize crap, whatever. When you know that's not who you are, um, you're gonna end up losing stuff. And so again, you notice this is my personal Google Drive. Most of the stuff is just in here. As long as it's in there, I know I have it. I can go and search. If web says, "Hey, yo, do you have? Remember I sent you X, Y, Z, this and that." Oh, the other strategy is align yourself with people who are more organized than you. This is another thing that works. So I ain't gotta be organized like that. And Webb's is gonna keep this stuff uber organized. She gonna send it to me. Great. It's gonna be in here somewhere, and she'll say, "Yo, do you have X, Y, Z? I don't know where X, Y, Z is, but I know the name of it, and I'll type the name in there, and the thing pops up." So in terms of to me, everything is Voltron like, right? One lion can't beat the super monster, the Robo Beast. But if you got five lions, five different people who got different skill sets, you can join up and do stuff. So if you do not have these abilities, you need to have enough of the abilities and enough of recognition of the situation to say, I'm not good at that. It is going to take me a long time to be good at that to a level in which the super organized person is. Is it worth it for me to stop all that I'm doing to be super organized in this way? Or can I find some way to cheat? And finding a way to cheat is the more important strategy, in my opinion. I don't have to be good at everything. I just got to be good at something. That's how I look at it.
I think too, going back to the fighting your tendencies thing, you have to think about like how are you going to react and what are you going to be able to continue to do in your most stressful times. So we're not talking about the last couple days of school when you're shutting down and you're not worried about anything, you've kind of let things go. We're talking about like spring break when you are tired, the week before spring break. You are tired, you are run down, you are just like counting the minutes until you can be done for just a little while. Things have piled up. Like, what are you going to be willing to do during that time? That's what you want to like aim for, is the thing that you're going to be able to stick with when you're most stressed out. And if the thing you're going to be able to stick with is dumping everything and just searching for it, then do that. If the thing that you want to be able to stick with is, or you can stick with, and your natural tendency is I want to sort all these things, then go with that. That's totally fine. Is this your like personal one, or is it your hoodlums one?
That's the hoodlums woman.
Okay, go to share drives real quick. So I organize all of our shared drives and I create, I think, all of our shared drives to keep all of our stuff sorted and organized. So I think this is a perfect example of what Mike was talking about. Like, find someone who, you know, pairs well with your way of doing things, and someone who can be a strength in an area where you may not have that same strength. So that is your one home base. By the way, there are other options. iCloud is totally an option, although I don't think it's quite as good as some it is. It doesn't have quite the features that other things do. Dropbox is another option, but that's going to be probably paid for the amount of things you have to put into it. So there are other options. I figured Google is kind of going to be the default for most people who are working off Chromebooks, working in schools that have Google Apps for Education. It's the default for a lot of businesses too. So that's why I decided to showcase Google Drive. But your second home base, I think, should be a to-do app. Some people use their calendar, but I prefer the to-do app. You can just go to todoist.com and it should bring up like their normal homepage. And actually, go back to the Google Keep tab, please, and thank you. If you are a Google user, you may want to use Google Keep. It can be a place where you dump the notes that you need to dump. You can make lists, you can pin things, you can share things, you can make it organized, you can make it chaotic. It's totally up to you. You can add links, all kinds of stuff. The important thing, regardless of the tool that you use, the important thing to remember about your to-do app is it needs to be a place where you can dump your thoughts. Whether that's, oh, you know what? I should totally get my mom that custom rolling pin for Christmas. Or if it's like, oh my gosh, I need to call Dr. Smith because, you know, I need to make my checkup appointment for the year. Keep allows you to sketch. It allows you to use all kinds of different tools and save that as a note. So you're not stuck with just typing it out, but you can type it out if you want to. You can copy things. You can add check boxes if you want to make a list. It's totally up to you. And I would encourage you to experiment with the tools that are out there to find ones that you like. And we'll talk a little bit later about how you make incremental changes to your system. You don't have to like bounce on your system just because it frustrates you one day. So Google Keep, if you're looking for a free tool or something already built in, that might be a tool you want to try. I think I have a whole free course. I think it's a free course on using Google Keep to do uh, as your like to do manager type tool. The thing that I would advise, regardless of the tool you pick, is make sure it's something that you can use on your computer, so you can access it on the desktop, and something you can access on your mobile device. Because I know when I'm out and about or when I'm in bed for the night or whatever, I don't have my laptop right in front of me. I want to just be able to pick up my phone, quick add a note, and then be done. That's super important. So you want something that's going to open up, and adding a note isn't going to take more than a step or two. Otherwise, it'll really discourage you from wanting to use that as your dumping ground of thoughts. The next one I'm going to suggest is OmniFocus, which I think is 2 tabs over. I'm going to save Todoist for last. It's really powerful, which is a double-edged sword. It can handle really large projects and complex steps. I wouldn't suggest this as the first one you try. If you do manage a lot of different projects and you're really like super detail oriented and you want a lot of options, this is like a workhorse of a to-do app, but it might be overwhelming for someone who's just getting started. But I thought it was worth bringing to attention just because, and I think it's on desktop, it's Mac only. I don't think they have web browser capabilities. But it's something worth mentioning because it is such a powerful, like, other end of the spectrum from Google Keep. And I'm only mentioning 3 here. There are a ton of them. There's Remember the Milk. There is Wunderlist or Wonderlist, whatever you want to call it, that just got purchased by Microsoft. There's List. There's Things. There's To Do. There's Do. There's a ton of them. There's the built-in ones on Android and iOS. What is this?
No, this is not being shown on the thing. So keep talking. Keep talking. You good?
Oh, okay. So yeah, so that's one of your options. Is OmniFocus. It's on the other end of things. The one that I prefer, and I don't get any compensation for this or anything, it just happens to be the app that I really like, is Todoist. I heard about it on a podcast that I listened to. Will you go to the Todoist tab? And the thing I really like about Todoist is that it uses natural language processing. So when I want to add something, if I know right away when I want that thing to be due or how I want it to recur, like repeat itself, I can just add that in normal language. So I can say like, call the electrician tomorrow, and it'll automatically schedule it for the next day. I can say, one of the to-dos that I have on my list is I do weights. I lift weights every other day, and that's on my to-do list. I have on my to-do list to take my medication every day, so I'll do meds every day, and it's just a recurring thing. I check it off for the day, and it'll pop up again the next day. So that's one of the features I really like about Todoist. It is available on download like application. It's available on the web, and it's available on mobile, which is great. And I think it's even on my iPad. So I can access it anywhere. It syncs. It has like a little point system that's completely meaningless, but it's kind of neat. You can set certain goals for yourself. So my grandmother always used to say, if I do 3 things in a day, then I did what I needed to do for that day and I'm done. So my daily goal is to do 3 things in a day. And once I'm done, I'm done. 15 things for the week. That's 3 things a day times 5 work days. And then I take 2 days off. You can turn on vacation mode so that it'll preserve your streak if you go on vacation, which is kind of neat. It recently added columns. So like Trello is another tool you might want to use for to-dos. And Todoist now has column mode, just like Trello. Trello is a really good tool. And I like using, and you can use them like in tandem. So maybe you use Google Keep for your school things and you use Todoist or Trello for your personal things, or certain big projects might get OmniFocus, but smaller projects you use a different manager. It's again, it's all about your system. I like dumping everything onto one list and then I break it out by project because that's another thing you can do with Todoist. You can tag things as like, oh, this project is, belongs to a special hoodlums project that we're working on, or this project belongs to something for my day job, or this project might be I have home things. So like I have an electrician coming tomorrow and going to do some work. So that was one of my tasks, and then I broke it down into subtasks to call specific electricians to get quotes and stuff like that. So the most important thing though to start out, because again, going back to I've been working on this for a while, so I have all these little steps and rules and stuff all built in. It's just a dumping ground for your thoughts so that you're not constantly thinking, maybe you're driving and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I got to make that appointment with the doctor. And then you forget about it. And then maybe a few hours later, you're like, oh, I really got to make that appointment with the doctor, but you don't write it down anywhere. You don't dump it in your to-do app. And then the next day you're like, oh, I really got to make that appointment. So all these times you're repeating this in your head, you're using that brain power. Or maybe it's like, oh, I have to remember to send out that IEP reminder. Oh, I have to remember to send out the IEP reminder. Well, stop using your brain power to cycle that and dump it somewhere. Have a home base to dump things. Mike, anything you want to add?
Uh, nah. Again, I'm on team. Like one of the things that you do as well. This like there are analog versions of this, right? So
Oh, absolutely.
bullet journaling is something that you do as well, correct? You can talk about bullet journaling.
Yeah, sure. Um, so bullet journaling is basically it's like an analog system. You can actually do it digital as well. I started playing with using doing a digital bullet journal using a tool called Notion. And you have like this sort of system where you have different uh, like you'll have an index to begin with. I've like tweaked it over time, so I'm trying to remember what the original like rules were. So you have an index at the beginning. You list that you have like the things on that index. As you go through, you number all your pages, and you'll do like here are the things that I need to do. Again, same idea. You're dumping your thoughts into this journal. The things that you get done get checked off. The things that you delete get crossed out. And the things that move to the next day, you drew a little arrow and then you recopy your to do list the next day. Um, I've heard that this is particularly helpful for folks with ADHD because it's like every day you're writing out like, here's what I'm gonna do for today. It helps with focus. You can also use it as a doodle journal. You can use it as a place to just sketch random ideas to track what books you're reading. You can use it for just about anything. It's really flexible. There are I've also played around with doing this on my iPad. I use an app called Concepts to do like a digital version that's handwritten versus a digital version that's typed, like I do with Notion. And again, that goes back to like I tweak my system the whole time. So, and you can do it in just a regular notebook because I did it in a regular notebook for a really long time too. I think the most important thing is making sure that this is kind of what we're leading to, like sticking with that system and tweaking it instead of abandoning it, and making sure you have some level of consistency. Because when you start like, oh, I'm going to write this on a post-it note, and I'm going to write this on a post-it note, oh, but I'm also going to write it in this journal, oh, but I'm also going to put it here. Like when you're dumping it in all these different places, that's when it gets a little chaotic.
So I'm going to push back on that, and this is what I'm going to say. Again, it totally depends on the type of person that you are. So one of the things that I thought was wrong with me for a long time was that I would randomly leave myself stuff all over the place. And then I figured out why I do that. So one of the cool things about cleaning up is finding crap that you left for yourself and like getting inspiration. Like, dang, I wrote that 2 years ago. I had no idea what that was, but that's timely right now because I needed inspiration for this other project I was going to do. Great, that little snippet works inside. This little snippet is good. Hiding things from yourself can be a great strategy if you're a right brain person. Don't put all your stuff in one place. The physical act of going somewhere else and getting something activates all kind of creativity, it activates opportunities, it gives you the power to, there's a power in having to go hunt and gather rather than having everything in front of you. And so I would, again, if you look at uh, if you start to read biographies of very creative people, these are people that have crap all over the place. And there's a reason why the crap is all over the place, because that person hunts and gathers. Where is X? Now I have to go through every sheet of paper to find X. But as I'm going through those sheets of paper, I'm looking at what's on those sheets of paper and saying, it's not this, that. Oh, but I wrote this 3 hours ago, and I had no idea this now connects with this other idea that I have. Now it connects to this idea, and now I have this like really cool Rubik's cube of ideas that are there. So if you're looking as purely an organizing principle, I think keeping things consistent is great. But if you're thinking about creation as a principle, then keeping things all in the same place is not as great a strategy. Putting stuff literally, I've got notebooks in my bedroom, I got stuff in my bathroom, I got stuff underneath my bed. So when I go to different rooms, I got different ideas that I was thinking about in those different rooms. And suddenly I've got all this little weird maelstrom of, oh, that would be really dope. And then I go somewhere else and I got this notebook and they intertwine, we're good. So there is some benefits to the chaos. For example, I don't do what Webs does at all. I don't check anything off, no list. I just build crap. And I'm like, all right, cool. So this is a tool that I've been using for like the last, I want to say 7 months, and I just dump crap in here. I literally do not mark it off. Everything is in progress. I finished one of them, but I just dump stuff in here. I don't write no notes to myself. I don't want to. I just gonna dump. Anytime I have an idea digitally, I throw it in here, and then I forget about it for like a week. And then when I need something, I go back. Where am I? Oh, okay, cool. iMovie strategies for iOS. That might be pretty dope to deal with. Let me go and play around with this part. Let me get 2 sections of this course made, and then I'll leave it alone. And I'll go somewhere else. So I think it's totally up to you to figure out. And again, the brainness thing has been debunked. Right brain, left brain has been debunked. I just use that because it's consistent. I mean, because it's a simple idea. People are familiar with those terms. But if you're looking to be very creative, hide stuff from yourself. I got notebooks in my car. I'll stop at traffic lights and give myself notes from a series. So again, do figure out who you are and then like plan accordingly. Go ahead, Web.
Because for me, those things are dead to me. Like once they're not in my system anymore, they're dead to me. Like I don't find them again. I don't revisit them. However, I will say something I do use is when I'm writing something, I'll sometimes stop at an incomplete thought so that it bothers me and I go back to writing it, or so that I have to reread to understand where I was. And sometimes I'll reread what I wrote and be like, oh, that actually could take me in this direction. Oh, wait, that gives me a different idea. I could go in. So I think there is definitely something to adding a bit of entropy to your system, so that it isn't like perfect. If even for as long as I've been working on my system, like there are definitely times where like some things I will write in my iPad and some things I'm experimenting, like I said, with Notion and it'll go there or whatever. And I try out like new ways of building certain things. So it's not to say that I am 100% committed to one tool and one way of doing things all the time, but I'm like 80% of my stuff in some way, shape, or form, I would say even 90% ends up in Todoist. Like even if it's just like the nugget of an idea that then moves to a different place, that nugget starts out as just a rando thought and I dump it into Todoist. Sometimes it goes into drafts. If it's like a slightly longer
But
thought that I just want to
but
capture and it's not like an action
you're
item.
super organized though. Like you can see linearly how you work. Like it's really
Oh yeah.
it's very impressive, especially for somebody. Again, my life is a hurricane. It's a tornado. It's how I roll with stuff, and it's just what I do. But it's a scenario where like again, your ideas come from. It seems like I started X at point A and we went to point Z. Great. Um,
Which is why you are important to my side of things, because I would be very boring and vanilla if I didn't throw some mic level of entropy into my life sometimes. Like those are the things those are like the nucleation points, when I think about like how would Mike look at this? What kind of how can I throw a little chaos into this so it's not perfectly organized, and that makes it more creative, and I think it makes it more have more depth. It's like adding layers of flavor to a dish, you know?
I think it's a scenario in which I think sometimes the best strategy is to have a team strategy and not have a strategy where if you're going into the woods by yourself, you always have to be awake. That's a problem to me. Like, there's a scenario in which you're not benefiting. If you have a team, you have a partner, you have whatever, there are benefits. This is why true collaboration is important. That's why if you're working in your classroom, having kids collaborate and not do group work, but collaborate with all four people looking at the same problem from four different perspectives, saying these are my skill sets, this is what I can do, this is what I can do. Cool. Let's put this in this pot and let's stir and make this soup. I think that's a better strategy than cool, I'm me, I'm gonna look at this way, and this is the way I've always looked at it, and that's why it's gonna get done. I think there's some efficacy in that in the short term. In the long term, there's a reason why teams outperform individuals that work by themselves. I mean, look at the Avengers versus Thanos. Their Avengers team was stronger than Thanos' team. They had a diverse set of skills. They could come at things from different problem solving, different perspectives. Thanos was the one dude. I make all the decisions. You're looking at it from my perspective, and I don't care about any of what your actual skills are. We're going to do it the way that I want to do it. And I think that the tyranny deal in the short term again can get you some small victories, but it does not win the war at the end.
The next thing up is um, systems are more important than tools. So build a system, don't rely on a tool. Tools die out, tools get bought out, like we saw with Wunderlist and Microsoft. Tools degrade, they change. You don't want to have a tool. You want to have a system. You want to have a system for processing information. You want to have a system for where to put things. I do this in the house too. So like if I find that I'm moving a thing around a lot, like I set it on this table and then I put it on my nightstand and then I move it here, that tells me this thing needs a home. This needs like that whole a place for everything and everything in its place is probably the antithesis of the way that you live. But for me, like if I find a thing is floating around, I'm like, okay, how can I give this a home so that I know where to put it? So that it's not just like floating aimlessly around. And so having a default go-to of where to put a thing, I think for me, helps me use less brain power. So making sure that you're not focusing on the specific tool that you're using, but the system. So in this case, I'm saying like, dump your crap in a place, and then you have to have a next step, because if you just dump your crap in a place and never do anything with it, it's not really helpful. It's not really a system. It's not really helpful. So once you dump your stuff, like every day before bed, or like when I have a few minutes, I'll go to my Todoist and I'll open it up like, all right, have I gotten through all the crap that I was supposed to do today? Is there anything in my inbox that I need to like take care of, that I can delete, that I need to move around, whatever. So if all you do to start out as the little like acorn of your system is dump all your crap in a place and look at that list of crap and figure out what to do with it every day, that is the start of a beautiful system. If your system is, I'm going to take pictures of everything and dump it into Google Drive, great. There's another thing. You're going to have a bullet journal and write all the things in your bullet journal and go over it once a week. For me, once a week wouldn't be enough because I stack up stuff too much, but that's how I started. Was I had a bullet journal and I reviewed it every Sunday. Yes, Rocketbook is a great tool for being able to do handwritten notes and then capture them digitally. It also is nice because you can then white the page if you're using the Rocketbook. What was the one that you microwave?
Both all of them you can microwave. You can microwave the Rocketbook too. You used to.
Oh, I thought there was a name for the microwave one. It wasn't Rocketbook. It was something else. Anyway, you can clear the pages off. So you have the same notebook, and you just, when you're done capturing the pages, you can wipe them off. So a colleague of mine a while back found out you can hack Rocketbook anchors, the beacons, with really brightly colored Post-it notes.
I really dig these. I think. I mean, when I love to reward creativity like this. again, as somebody who's not somebody who's naturally organized, I write when we were back in school, I would write on my whiteboards all over the place, and seeing that I saw 6, 7 different classes every day, I would have to erase those whiteboards for the next period. And that's a different set of kids, a different grade level, etc. But these allowed me to just take the pictures of them. They go directly into my app, and they go directly in my Google Drive, and I have all my notes. So the next day, I didn't have to write anything on the whiteboard. I simply shot that picture to the kids. Great, that's what we went over. The kids can add their own stuff to it, and God bless you, we're done. So again, my thing is always to cheat at everything.
Yep.
Everything has an ability to be hijacked, to be stopped, to be interloped. Um, but like as a teacher, you've got tons of things going through your brain. How can you automate things? How can you shortcut things? This is why video is such a great thing. I don't know why people are like freaking out about the video thing. I've read like 5 million different quotes on Instagram and on Facebook about it took me 2 hours to create a 5 minute video. And I'm like, okay, fam, we're not talking about being perfect on video. Just record the crap. Like no kid is going to sit there and say, "Oh, this is an Academy Award winning video." You need to actually be put in cans. No one cares about that. So if you're spending 2 hours to create a 5 minute video, you're doing it wrong.
Which is not on the slide deck, but perfection is overrated. Like, don't try to make a thing perfect. Don't try to execute your strategy perfectly. Like, just make progress. Which I guess will then bring us to the last point, which is 1% better every day. So there's a book called Atomic Habits. It's a great book if you haven't read it. And basically that's what James Clear advocates is like 1% better every day. That's all you have to do. So you have your system, right? Your system starts out with, let's say, I'm going to dump my crap into the Google Keep. I'm going to review it once a day. That's my whole system. That's all I'm going to do for right now. If you find yourself thinking, oh, I don't really like how Google Keep organizes my notes. I don't really like that. It's just I don't like the interface or the UI. Like, oh, I really wish I had something that would like give me these different types of alerts. Okay, so now you're starting to form some. You have these little criticisms of this tool. Maybe you can find a tool that does it better. So that doesn't mean abandon the system entirely. It just means maybe for a week you try a different tool. So maybe you do try OmniFocus and see how that goes. Something to keep in mind is once you're invested in a tool, changing and experimenting becomes a little more challenging. That's not a bad thing, really. Like, it just tells you, it really anchors you in, is it worth me doing this experiment? Is it worth me switching over to a different tool? Because that means I have to move all my stuff with me and have a way to move all my stuff with me. So you don't have to abandon the system, just tweak it. Like, think about what are the pain points you're having, and then find someone has figured out a way to solve that pain point. So just tweak it. That's all you have to do is like little tiny changes, little tiny experiments in how to change one thing at a time. Don't overhaul the whole system. Don't try to switch to, doing workouts at 5 a.m. every single day for an hour and a half when you previously didn't wake up before noon. Like, don't try to do an overhaul. Just do tiny little tweaks, tiny little changes. So if you get 3 things written on your to-do list, cool. That's progress. That's great. That's awesome. I think we have this mentality in our society that you have to be very all or nothing, and I think that's actually ends up causing more damage than progress because you feel like, oh, I didn't do it perfectly, so I might as well abandon it altogether. That is called all or nothing, nothing thinking, and it's not helpful.
Indeed, indeed. So I listened to it. I think it's a good read or a good listen or good like it's still reading if I listen to it. So it's a good read. Um, but again, one of the things that I like is chaos, and I like chaos for okay. So this school year is only 4 weeks old, something like that.
Yep.
I
Yep.
changed my strategies 5 times in 4 weeks just because I was like, hey, I don't like how that works anymore. Let me do something different just to see what happens. I don't like how that works anymore. Let me change it. And then I will go and change how I do stuff the same grade level. That's the kind of the cool thing about being a specialist. I've got X number of classes in first grade. I will do the same lesson 5 different ways. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see what happens. These kids dig that. They didn't like that part. They like this part. One of the coolest things about being a secondary teacher is that you get to do the same lesson over and over again. You get by the time you get the third or fourth time, you have perfected it. You know every little nuance, but then it gets boring to me, and I'm like, let me change the whole thing. And like, let's see what happens. And oh, that worked, that didn't work, or whatever. Um, so I do think there is some benefits to saying this worked. All right, cool. Let's see some other stuff that works. I already know this works, so cool. Let's go and play around with it and blow some else. Let's blow a hole inside this thing and see what else works. And if that works and this works, let's put those two things together and see what happens. Do they clash? Are there's some synergy there? Is it harmonious? It doesn't work. All right, cool. That didn't work. You say one of the cool things about being a teacher, you can apologize all the time and you do not lose your job. I will go like today. I had a blended class with some friends who were grade level kids and some autism kids. And I was like, let's just see if this works. Threw a strategy at them. Autism kids was like, oh, that's really cool. Let's go do it. The first grade kids were like, eh. And I was like, okay, cool. That was interesting. My friends who were on the spectrum, they actually got it. They understood what they needed to do. My friends who were more grade level ish didn't see the kind of weird rainbow we were painting. Um, and then I did the same lesson yesterday. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's see what happens. And those kids all got it. So, I mean, you have different audiences. I think a lot of it is, as a teacher, it is, if you don't see yourself as an entertainer, I think there is I think philosophically that it might be a problem, especially given the way that we're teaching right now. Uh, Dave Chappelle has a really great story about, and he tells the story. If you're not a hip hop fan, you haven't heard the story perhaps. Detroit 2 album just dropped a couple weeks back. Big Sean's latest album. He has an interlude by Dave Chappelle on the album. And it's a very interesting story that Dave Chappelle tells. And he's talking about a comedy show he has in Detroit. He goes through, and he didn't prepare very well for the comedy show, and he bombed on stage, right? And he's like, look, comedians bomb all the time. It is what it is. He bombs. People are telling him he bombed. Hey, whatever. He throws out the material, it doesn't work. And as I'm listening to the story, I'm like, why the devil is this on Big Sean's? What does this have to do with Big Sean? Well, Dave Chappelle, Big Sean's dad comforts him and says, look, yeah, you bomb sometimes, bro. It's just something that happens. And if you look at things from a comedian's point of view, right, you're going to try to go to venues and try out material. And sometimes the material is going to be like, oh, that was really funny. And sometimes the material is going to be like, that sucked. You got to learn from both experiences and saying, this is stuff that I'm going to keep and this is stuff I'm going to throw away. And let me try out new stuff. But I think that the kind of the point for the whole hustle is organization is it's tapas in a lot of ways, right? It's not these huge meals. It's sampling. Oh, I really like that. I'm ordering that every time I come to this restaurant. Because that right there is the bomb. When me and my friends come in, I'm ordering that for them too, because that's going to get we all feel that, right? Instead of trying to make it a smorgasbord where it's like we're going to eat really heavy and like, you're going to have gastrointestinal problems afterward. The top situation is really like this, like we're going to, we're going to converse, we're going to dine, we're going to talk, it kind of is a communal type way that you do stuff, right? And I think that's the way to look at the organization thing. It's not looking at it from, a situation where I'm going to sit for 15 hours and eat heavy food. I'm going to sample all these little things. I'm going to have a rotation. I'm going to have a structure of an idea, and I'm going to do it with friends. Because I think that is a huge thing that I have learned as I've gotten older, that there are certain things you can be very, very good at by yourself. But there are a lot of things that you cannot be very, very good at by yourself. Life is a team sport, in my opinion. As much as I like to watch tennis, that's generally not endemic of how life works. Life is more soccer. It's beautiful and it's boring, right? You're only going to score 2 goals. And that ball's going to get passed 75 million times around the field with no real action whatsoever. People are going to fall down. They're going to fake injured. They're going to do all kind of stuff like that. But at the same time, it takes a whole team to win, to score just 1 goal. So that's kind of my. I'm not the most uber organized person, but that is my organized philosophy on why you need to be quasi organized.
I think it's important too to understand and be empathic that like not every kid is going to think like you think. So you may organize a lesson a certain way and it doesn't make sense for a kid because that's not how their brain works. Or you may resonate with some kids and your lessons may resonate with some kids and it may be worth going outside your comfort zone to think about something and look at something from a different angle so that it can resonate with a different kid so that you can model just like with math. Like I was just having this conversation with my roommate like everybody complains about new math and you know common core math is so ridiculous blah, blah blah, but the whole point is you're supposed to be giving kids multiple strategies and building their skills and manipulating and understanding fundamentally how numbers work. That's the purpose of doing it in all these different ways and these ways that people say take so long and have so many steps. It's because it's building that foundational understanding of how the whole thing works. And so by giving them lots of different options for how to work to solve a problem, you're guaranteed to hit with at least one that resonates. And I think really digificiency should be no different, and modeling those skills for them should be no different. There, you need to have like lots of different ways of looking at things so that they can see themselves in something that you present and the way that you present something.
One of the other things to deal with is you got to know your audience, though. I mean, that's another scenario in which you, and this is a strategy to try, teach your people. This is what I do every day. I do not start class on time, ever. I will start the Google Meet on time, and I'll actually start at 5 minutes before the kid's supposed to be on there. And I'll put a 10-minute uh, Pomodoro timer on. It just says 10 minutes. And what I've done over the last 4 weeks is that's just free time. Unmute yourself, talk about what you want to talk about, do what you want to do. If you want to play music on your side of the deal, play music as long as it's school appropriate. You want to talk to your friends, you want to have some conversation in the chat or whatever. And I don't have my camera on and I'm muted, and I just listen. And you like, look, this is what happened with this kid. This is what's going on here. This kid just had a baby. This so and so over this. This kid hates mayonnaise on their sandwiches. This kid, all of these three people play Roblox. Here are their Roblox usernames because they just put them in the chat box. So if I was going to hop on Roblox, I got three friends automatically. But give them an opportunity to, in an unstructured way, tell you everything that you need to do. And you're just sitting there narking, like listen, sit, just cool. I got my little notebook. Like, all right, Susie likes X, Y, Z. This kid always shows up 7 minutes late for class. They've done it for the last 3 times. All right, cool. I know that I'm gonna start the class even later, perhaps, because I don't want to repeat myself the first 5 minutes because Bob is waking up from their nap at so and so time. Really, really low pressure strategy. Your kids get an opportunity to talk. I ain't got to fool with you. There's timers on the screen so they know how much time they have to talk. They can say what they want. I've not had anyone abuse it. No one cyberbullied anybody because generally humans don't do that. I mean, I don't know why kids get this bad rap that they're just, feral animals that are, will go at a drop of a dime and, and curse people out or whatever it is. But never had an issue with it. And so now, then on the weekends, I can look at what I've got written down in the notebooks and say, this is my stand up routine for next week. This is how we're going to present this information. This is how we're going to get down. All right. And I don't think that you can, again, be a performer and not know who you're performing for. And I think one of the big things in Hartford's book, Messy, is Martin Luther King. And just I have a dream speech that I've been a Mountaintop speech is totally just he came off the top of his freaking head, and he came off the top of his head when he started looking at the audience at the beginning of the speech, and people were like not into it. He was like, obviously this written thing that I have is bull crap, and people not in with it. As a teacher, you got to look at it and say, lesson plans might have been dope in my mind, but it is flatlining now in front of my friends here. Let me go and reorganize my organization so that my students now have a leg to stand on here in terms of more of an open world game and less of a platform scroller. And if you're not a gamer, Mario Brothers is a platform scroller. There are very few decisions you can make outside of the decisions that the designer actually made for you, right? Are there secret rooms and stuff like that? Yeah, but you're definitely going forward generally. I got to go forward. If I miss something, I'm just screwed, especially the first Mario, right? Can't go back. But if you play games now and Webb's plays Animal Crossing, right? I can decide to behave any way that I wish and still be playing the same game everyone else is playing. I think that's another thing what she's kind of hammered in for the hour is that this is a choose your own adventure game, not a platform scroller. We're all going the same way. And if you look at the games that the kids are playing now, they are not playing the linear games. They are playing the Roblox. They're playing Minecraft. They're playing a Grand Theft Auto. They're playing games that allow them to think, iterate, and say, I don't want to do it that way. I want to go somewhere else and do something different than how other people are doing. I can be successful this way and still win the game. And so
Build and explore games.
I think that's one of the scenarios in which if you're going to organize, you're going to plan, how much entry can you bake into the plan so that if you're going to have the kid that wants to do linear stuff, great. There's a straight path to success if you want the straight path to success. But there's also these little dips and valleys in what we can deal with. So as a specialist teacher, my newest iteration of my course is now I have one lesson per month, just one. They have one project. They have 30 days to get it done in for me, and everything else is just temperature checks. I ain't teaching but one time a month. The first day of the month, the first time I see you is when we learn. That is it, and we will walk you through how to use a Trello board, how to use Google Drive to set your stuff up, how to collaborate with people. Because if we're talking 21st century skills, college career ready skills, it is not going to be how to find the linear path to the answer because the linear path very rarely presents itself. Right? How do I deal with the common coordinates of life, of when stuff is going to change, and I'm gonna be like, all right, look, I'm in a dead end job. I don't want to do this. What are my skills? This, and that. How can I take those skills and make a living for myself, rather than my mom told me I'm going to be working for AT&T for 35 years, so I'm not going to leave this. I'm going to sit here for 35 years and be totally unsatisfied and angry at myself when I get 70 years old and I'm now like the prime years of my life have been wasted. So that's my 2 cents on that issue was.
No, I totally agree with you. Just thinking about my own experiences, when I decided to leave teaching, I had a couple options. Like I could go to a boot camp, but that was going to cost a lot of money. I could go back and get another degree, which was also going to cost a lot of money. Or I could put my teaching degree to work and maybe it's a higher risk, but attempt to create my own curriculum and teach myself how to do a thing. And so I had to look at those options and weigh. First, I had to come up with those options. Then I had to weigh those options and decide which one made the most sense for me. So while someone else may say, "There's no way I'm going to be able to have the discipline and figure out I don't have the time, I don't have the capacity, whatever reason, I'm not going to be able to do this all DIY. I need someone to guide me through this complex thing. So I'm going to need to go to university or a boot camp in order to do that best for myself." Just today, I had a situation at work where we were faced with, "Hey, you have this problem, this new problem you need to solve. How are you going to solve it?" Well, we could go this route and solve it this way. What have other people done to solve the same problem? Maybe we could try this route and go this way, but here are the positives and here are the negatives. And then as a team, we had to talk through like what makes the most sense for our situation right now. Is there an adjustment we can make in the future to maybe pick a better choice that might take a little bit more work, but we could do it at some point? Like, and you're not stuck with your decision. You can always change things. You can always experiment and tweak, and I totally agree with you on that one. Like constantly, not constantly changing, but like thoughtfully changing and cycling through and trying new things is a really powerful and important skill. Like that's how you can experiment and test and figure out if there are better ways of doing a thing. You may think your way is the best way. You may think, hours of PDFs is the best way to teach a lesson. But if you do a little experimentation and tweaking, you may find out that there are better ways to do that that are less stressful, that are more impactful on your students. And there was something else you said that triggered a thought. Um, it was experimentation and testing, knowing your audience. If you know that the games your students like to play are like Roblox, they're these open world explore and build type games, how can you make your teaching mimic that? If you already know that that's what they're interested in, how can you mimic that same process? Like Mike was saying, there's a linear path for the kids who want the linear path, but there are side quests for kids who want to do a little more exploration. There's choices. Like I just started working on that being Steve Irwin like little unit thing module thing. And one of the things that I include is like when you're learning about him, here's resources. Minimum, you pick one, but if you want to go find your own, you can. If you want to do all like 5 or 6 that I have listed, go ahead, knock yourself out. Like there are choices for how you want to go about solving this problem, that make it so you can explore and so that you can build your own thing. And it's personal to you and what your way of doing things is.
Yeah, man, you gotta think like Predator, man. The first Predator movie. I'm a movie person. If you're a movie, organize your thoughts. I'm a pop culture junkie. I'm a music junkie. I'm a movie junkie. Some people got to get to the chopper, right? Some people go directly to the chopper and they can get out of there. But some people got to be Arnold Schwarzenegger and they got to actually kill the monster. Like I cannot live in a world in which the monster who killed all my buddies is still walking around here. So I've never faced this monster before. The monster could camouflage himself. He's got better weapons than I have. He's from a different planet. I bleed, and then I figure out he bleeds too. And then I figure out he can't see me if I put mud on myself. There's all this experimentation as you go through it. Is it totally ridiculous? Absolutely. But does it articulate that experimentation doesn't have to be in a lab? It doesn't have to be this profound process. It just has to be this didn't work. This worked. This didn't work. This worked. This didn't work. This worked. I mean, food. How do you find out what foods you like? You taste them and like, oh, that's nasty, and I taste it. This is delicious. All right, it's not a heavily scientific process, and then you observe people. One of my first jobs while I was in college, with my first career path with my sociology degree, I was going to use it for evil. And I was to simply study people, right? And I was going to study people for a Fortune 500 company and tell them, yo, this is what we just noticed. This is how we go and exploit these people. And so there was a secret labish type thing in which we were in, and we would look through this window and we would just watch people as they shopped, and we would watch what they touched, how long they stayed there, what type of people. So we look at demographics, like, oh, is this an old white lady? Is this a young Latina? Is this a black person? Is this somebody who happens to be handicapped? If they are handicapped, what kind of handicaps do they have? Is this a second language person? We just go through the list and stuff, conversing with one another, like, all right, okay, cool. Now we know how to get this group of people because we've seen enough people that fit this demographic that like this particular thing at this particular price point, this particular part. Boom, gotcha. And suddenly that's how, if you start to think about supermarkets, that's how prices are determined. That determines also what kind of flavors of different products are offered. People study people, and that is like fundamentally how everything works in life. I look at somebody and say, this person is very successful. I wonder why this person is very successful. Let me go and we read biographies. People are obsessed with biography for a reason, right? I want to know why this person did these things. What's the thing? The podcast, the Serial.
Yeah.
Yeah, why did this person do this thing? Why was he accused of this? We are interested in studying people to figure out how they tick. And so teaching is the ultimate sociology experiment. It is going in and seeing diverse people, a group of people who have never met each other that first day of school and saying, how do I make this group work like a group? Part of that is organizing, but part of that also is rapid experimentation. Like very, very, very quick, small experiments. So and so does not play games. Like the only thing I cannot abide is people that don't listen to music. Like that I don't understand. Not playing games, I can deal with. If you don't listen to music, we have a deeper conversation we have to have. And I may not be able to reach you if we don't listen to any music. Like you don't listen to anything. And there's only one person in my entire life who has told me they don't listen to music. Only one person. And that person, yeah, we did not have a very good relationship.
All right.
All right. Nisha says he would only believe in a guy that could dance. There's a reason why that happens. Anyway, anything to add to close up, Webs?
I don't think so. Create your system, experiment with tools. 1% better every day.
And like failure is not the end of the world.
Nope. Perfection is overrated. We have t-shirts that say that if you want a shirt that says perfection is overrated.
Facts. So Sunday night, after seeing the 5,000th 5,000th post that said that I spent 2 hours on a 5-minute video, we're going to look at video production and how to very, very easily do this stuff so we're not spending 25 years on a 5-minute video. You don't have to do that. Also, I had a conversation, was having a conversation earlier, and this is a small aside. Another reason why I kind of was inspired on Sunday to look at this. This morning, I had a meeting with some friends before school, and one of the teachers teaches in another district, and she was like, "Well, yo, teachers don't want to record themselves." And I'm like, Why don't they want to record themselves? Oh, because of this and this other reason. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Like next year, you're gonna have to teach the same stuff. If it was already recorded, then like literally, I planned a year ahead. We're good. Like hasta la pasta. Especially if you're talking about places where you're using Canvas and LMSs that are going to be able to be copied. You can copy your whole year to the next year, make some tweaks, and handle your business. So, not videotaping yourself now is going to have some disastrous consequences, in my opinion, going forward, because you're going to be doing double the work. And if you had a scenario in which it was already in Canvas, I could pull my small groups knowing I've already had the kids can go at their own pace through my course. I'm gonna pull my small groups and do remediation. I can deal with my IEP students in a small group. I can go help my ELL friends, all that kind of stuff. To me, you're saving yourself some problems going forward. Webs.
Is it being on camera or recording your voice or just doing the recording in general?
So what she said in her school was some people were having difficulties actually recording the physical act of recording. They found that to be cumbersome. Other people were
Okay.
like, I don't want to be on camera. So okay, cool. There's ways to record yourself without being on camera at all. And other people were like, hey, yeah, I don't like my voice, the audio issue. Well, cool. There are some programs that allow you to essentially dub your voice over if your voice is just horrible, or you perceive your voice to be hard. There are very few people whose voices I'm just like, your voice is so bad, I don't want to listen to it.
I think a lot of it is like it's an uncomfortable thing at first. Like when I first started doing recordings and everything, I was very self-conscious about my voice. I just powered through and kind of got over it. Because for me it was worth the trade-off of like, oh, if I can just record this and play it back for kids, then that's less work for
From
me.
that.
The less work thing is always like trumps everything else.
Knowing that you're going to have 55 billion things to do every day,
Yep.
having
Mhm.
one large thing, oh, and that goes back to the organization thing. Can that the lesson planning off I can just get that off my plate and just deal with students as students. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of switched to the model that I'm using in my classroom. All we're going to do now is check in and laugh. And like, look, where are you at in your project? Oh, I'm gonna do XYZ part. All right, cool. Let's tell a couple jokes. Let's read a story, maybe. All right, kid, we did our 15 minutes. Go back and get your work done. I don't think that it needs to be a scenario in which um, I hate hour-long meetings that are just pointless. I don't think the kids like that either. There's been stories about kids sleeping through meetings and stuff, and part of that is like, oh yeah, the kid might have stayed up very late and perhaps is sluggish. And part of that might be, hey, what you're doing is not the most intriguing hustle. So
Also, we're in the middle of a pandemic still. Like, I know that's really easy to forget because there are people who are going on like it's not a big deal, but it's mentally taxing. It's exhausting. You have families who have lost jobs, who have lost homes, who are going through a lot of stress. And I feel like we just kind of ignore that, basically.
facts, and also we have
So,
different chronotypes, which you will talk again
yep.
about. I am a late night person. That's what I do. I take naps during the day so I can stay up all night. That's what I do. I got kids who will send me assignments at 11 o'clock, 11:30, midnight. They got the work done. Why do I care what time they got the work done? I shouldn't. But unfortunately, the system that we work in does. So we will leave that conversation for Sunday. Sunday, we're going to talk about video recording strategies, ways to do it without, you don't need to win an Academy Award, as I mentioned earlier. You just need to get the crap done. It don't have to look pretty. It just has to be, this is how you do your math problem, Jimmy. Leave me alone. That's the hustle. All right. Hasta la pasta. I'm about to do the thing.
Cool.
And we'll see you Sunday at 6 p.m. Hasta la pasta.
Bye,
Don't
everybody.
work too hard.